It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a bear on cocaine. Today on the Movie Theater Butter podcast, we're doing drugs. Just kidding. We're not doing drugs, and also for legal reasons, I feel the need to just say that this episode in no way supports the use and or sale of illegal substances, especially for furry creatures.
This podcast has been accused of that before, so it's good we just got that out
Yeah.
of the way.
Yeah, last time I did a meth bear, they were like, come on. A prequel, obviously.
When we did Ketamine Koala, that was a whole
Ketamine
fiasco in itself.
This sequel potential for this, I can't even. We're gonna get into that.
Yeah, this might be the cinematic universe I want more than anything else. Let's just do more drug animal movies.
Yeah,
Let's get
the
a giraffe.
superhero era, it's over. It's over. So my guest today, David Cahill. So you and I talked about past lives recently. That was the first and most recent episode that we did on this
Yeah.
podcast, which honestly, in hindsight, a weird choice. Like, not gonna be honest, a weird choice for you and I.
To do past lives, yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, it's a movie. It's definitely a movie that I just was never gonna like, no matter how hard I tried. So it's,
Yeah.
they were
And it
doomed.
happens. It happens. But in that episode, we briefly mentioned Cocaine Bear.
It's a part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah, briefly mentioned Cocaine Bear. So we had to talk about it, obviously. So yes, today I am joined once again by multi-talented, cool guy, David Cahill. How's it going, David?
Thank you, Kim. It's going great. How are you doing?
I'm great, and the weather's lovely today.
Just the way you asked that question, I was like, wow, I really got to be formal with this answer. I really got to,
Yeah,
I hope
you
I
got to
impress.
step up your game. I have everything written down, dude. Every single word that I say written down, right? So I have to say it in like this like Caesar Flickerman like presenter voice. Like, how's it going today, David? It works
You
well.
really need like the hanging microphone. I feel like that's like more appropriate for what you're trying to do here.
I should get one of the, like Madonna style. Is that what you're saying? One
Like
of those?
classy mode, yeah. Like you're
Yeah.
like a WWE announcer or something like that,
Dude, yes. Wait, are you so random, so off topic? Did you watch or have you kept up with WrestleMania recently?
I haven't. I follow a lot of people on Twitter who are really into wrestling, but I've like never really gotten into it. So it's just kind of like a curiosity for me.
Fair enough. I will slowly but surely peer pressure you into some WrestleMania. Like my friend peer pressured me into some WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And the gateway drug for that is Rhea Ripley. If you didn't know her,
No.
she, I, I, she's Google. We'll get on that later. She's incredible, and that's unrelated to Cocaine Bear.
We have a
We're
crush
talking
on
about
her.
Cocaine Bear. Every single human in this on this planet has a crush on Rhea Ripley.
That's awesome.
And you
I could
should.
use is that a yeah, whoever that is, like I could use another crush in my life, I think. A
Yeah.
celebrity crush. I feel like I haven't had, a celeb crush in a while. Do you have any celeb
Yeah.
crushes besides them at the moment?
Oh my God. Totally on brand for what we're talking about today. Elizabeth Banks, 100%.
Elizabeth Banks. Okay.
Yeah. And it kind of started at Pitch Perfect, but it really started at Effie Trinket in the Hunger
Yeah.
Games series. And I was
Yeah.
like, she's incredible. And then she just like keeps growing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
goddess, love you. Can't wait to have coffee with you someday.
I feel like I'm
But-
gonna say completely you're not gonna like what I have to say.
Yeah. So that's the thing about this episode is
It's gonna be the
remember-
last one.
it's the last one because you and I are gonna fight because I know in my heart, and I am accurate and true
Right,
when I
right.
say this. I know in my heart that Cocaine Bear is the second greatest movie of all time,
Okay.
and I think that you think it's at least lower than third, and that's just not gonna. That's just not gonna work with me.
It's definitely not my top 5 favorite movies of all time. That's for sure.
That's crazy. That's fucking
it's hard
crazy.
to say.
So we always start with a favorite quote from the film or source material. There's not really any quotes from the source material, so it's gonna have to be a quote from the film.
Yeah.
David, did you come today with a favorite quote?
You know what? I'm trying to think. I'm like it would have had to been like one of the lines that like the little boy says,
Yeah,
Like
he's
I
got
just
good
love
ones.
like cuz I love like he would have lines where he like specifically said like crap, rather than a curse word. And then he was just like, the bear's on fucking cocaine. And that was like genuinely funny. It's like that's just undeniable. Like little kids saying inappropriate things. It's just like that's classic comedy right there.
True. Comedy 101.
Yeah.
So is that it? That's just
That's
generically or
that's
like
my
anything the
answer.
kid says?
Yeah, anything the kid says. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I kind of like specific lines of dialogue. I don't know. That kind of thing like doesn't like stick with me. I'm more of like a concepts kind of guy.
I'll throw you a line. I'll throw you a line on this. There's a moment towards the end where he's just like, it's the third act. It's like the last stand. And
Yeah.
he says something along the lines of like, my name is Henry and I'm fucking tired. And it just hits.
Yeah, that line is great. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing all the legwork here.
Anytime.
I also love, I mean, like, Ray Liotta is just, he that kind of actor, like, just his face, just looking at him, like, he's so
Yeah.
weathered, like, he has such a specific character to him that, like, just by doing nothing, he's giving so much more than most other actors. And like every line he delivers is just kind of like classic, like, and he's just like, yo, I'm not like daddy fucking daycare.
Yeah.
That
He's
was
got
just,
that like
I was like, yeah,
classic.
that hits.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Nice. Well, I also just have like kind of a decently lame favorite quote today, but I still like it. So
Yeah.
I don't remember who the fuck said it, but it was, that was so messed up. That little man was an expert on bears, but he didn't know that bear was the cocaine bear. And the only reason I chose it is because they did the thing. They said the name of
Yeah.
the thing in the
Yeah.
thing. And
That's
honestly,
awesome.
that's what brings this movie, like, okay, let's talk about it. That's what brings this movie from at least like the fifth best movie of all time
Yeah.
to the second greatest movie of all time. Because you can't have, like, and here's the thing, guys. Everyone says Citizen Kane is the greatest movie of all time. It's definitely not. But especially, like, nowhere in Citizen Kane does Kane say, and I'm Citizen Kane. Nowhere. It's not a
and
movie.
and he does no coke in that movie either.
No
He's
coke in
just
that
like
movie.
walking around in the boardroom going jolly o, like on some
Yeah, he just needs
1940s shit.
therapy. It's not a film.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about Cocaine Bear. So this is an adaptation of a true story, and it tells you, in the first like 10 minutes of the film, it says based on a true story in the kind of way that I was always hoping a film would. Because out of the gate, this is like a very, very loose, very just like fictional adaptation for the most part. And it just slaps you with like, based on a true story. Like, are you ready, guys? Some of this actually kind of happened. And the reality is almost none of it happened. But just to like, because I can sum this up in the next 30 seconds, okay? The true story of the Cocaine Bear incident is that a drug smuggler was traveling in a plane with supposedly like 880 pounds of cocaine. And apparently he suspected that the feds were trailing him. So he dumped a bunch of the coke and then he jumped out of the plane with some of the coke strapped on him. And then the jump did not go well because he was found dead on September 11th in someone's driveway. September 11th of 1985, not 2001, for anyone who was
Yeah, don't
curious.
don't get my conspiracy mind going there. Um,
Yeah.
where's the connection?
So, yeah, so he was dead. He was dead in someone's driveway. And the first thing that I want to say about that as a licensed skydiver is don't land in driveways and also don't do
Yeah.
drugs and don't smuggle
Yeah,
drugs.
I'm pretty sure they teach you that not to do drugs and like fly.
Yeah, that's lesson
Also,
number 3.
it's kind of funny to like dump some of the drugs and keep some of them. It's like it doesn't matter if you get caught with a brick or 1,000 bricks. Like it's not gonna go well for you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the fucking 80s and everyone's
It's the
crazy.
80s. Yeah,
People
that's a good.
are jumping out of planes with coke
Yeah.
and then the deal with this whole the bear, okay? So the bear comes in 4 months later after this whole thing. 4 months after they found the guy dead on the driveway, they found a dead bear who had overdosed on cocaine and they were like, "Oh my god, we made the connection because it was around the same time period." And also, when in history has a bear overdosed of cocaine that it wasn't directly tied to something like that? But that's this real story of what happened. There was no park
That's interesting.
incident. There was no like drug ring coming to find it, as far as we know.
Yeah.
This whole film is very. They just took the fun idea of a cocaine bear and said, "Okay, let's fuck around with it."
Yeah, that's I mean, just that story alone, like the actual factual stuff about it is just the most 80s story of all time. It
Yeah,
really
a hundred
like I do
percent.
like it for that reason, you know.
Yeah, but apparently you hate everything else about this film, David.
Well, you know what? I mean, like, I guess I was interested to hear like first more about like how you felt. Like, was there anything that surprised you like when you first saw it? Like, is like what kind of like I feel like you're really high on it, and I'm curious. Like, it's not just
Choice
like
of words.
it's. That's why they
Mm.
pay me the big bucks. But I feel like you like it a little more than just like, yeah, it was fine. Yeah, you really like it, so I'm curious as to why.
Ultimately, it's fun. I
Yeah,
had a good time. I mean, I think it's really lame, but that's what it comes down to. Like,
yeah,
I can deeply assess the stories of all of these individual characters and talk about how like their arc is cool and how like for the and all this stuff, which is still kind of true. I mean, there's still interesting characters in here that we find,
yeah,
but ultimately it comes down to the fact that like when I was sitting in the theater, I just had a good fucking time. This was
yeah.
just I would see this in the theater any day. Like shitty Tuesday, I would go see Cocaine Bear
That's
any day.
crazy.
Yeah. And it was also like everything that I wanted it to be.
Yeah,
Like a movie with this title,
yeah,
immediately it has to be fucking crazy. You're going to laugh, there's going to be some, a lot of murder. Like people are
yeah,
definitely going to die. People are going to get slashed by this bear's claws. And you got all of that and then on top of it you also got just all of these fun fucking characters like
yeah.
interacting with each other. So it wasn't just a movie. It didn't feel flat to me. It felt like they took a fun idea and just threw more shit at it and made it overall fun.
Yeah, I do like that they definitely served up like on the premise, It's there's no like bait and switch here. Like this definitely is like, they're like this is going to be like a crazy like cheesy B movie, and there's going to be some like gnarly violence. Like you could bet on pretty much all of that, and like they definitely delivered on it. I
Mhm.
feel like because I rewatched it yesterday, and the first thing that kind of stuck out to me was like I just I thought it was like a more questionable choice than I originally realized. Like because Carrie Russell, like I loved her. Like she's maybe my favorite person in the movie. She's just so like authentic. But I was like, this really like does not fit in this movie at all. Like it's so funny. Like I mean, maybe you would say that that's what gives the movie like a sense of variety. But I feel like I was kind of like brushing up against like it cutting back and forth between like scenes of Carrie Russell being like, I'm just a single mom, just working these double shifts, just trying to help you kids out.
A
And then
single
it
mom
would
who works too hard, who loves her kids. And yeah.
Precisely, and then it would just be, like, cut to, like, the dumbest bullshit ever, and I was like it just has me, like, mixed up how to feel. I'm like, "Okay, like, you're trying to get me invested in this very sweet story, and then you're cutting to, like, the most disrespectable, like, type of scenes you could possibly cut to." It's like a dude like, "Ooh," like, fighting the cocaine bear, like, every one of, like, the dudes from the town, like, they, like and the more I say it out loud, the more I'm realizing this might just be, like, a me thing, but, like, they were just so cartoonish, it was bothering me? There's almost, like,
Okay. Okay.
a sense of, like I don't know, I definitely like comedy where it feels like it's played super straight, like and I felt like they're acting so buffoonish that it's almost
Yeah.
like the material is buffoonish, like, so yeah, I don't know. If you ever see like a B movie, like think of The Room, like that movie is so funny because they're like earnest as fuck. Like,
You're comparing.
I mean, it's so like this.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but it's so funny to like bring up a complete genre opposite to this film and be like, that film actually really got comedy.
It did though. Like you could like argue whether they intended whatever out of it or not, but that's what's funny is when like someone is so earnest and like serious about something, but whatever they're earnest or serious about is like stupid or just ridiculous. So I felt like there's a little bit of that throughout the movie, and that's kind of like what rubbed me the wrong way more than anything is like,
Hmm.
some of the actors towed that line a little bit better, like Kerry Russell or Ray Liotta or like I think it's O'Shea Jackson. I think that's his first name. But then I felt like those three goons from around town, like they just pissed me off every time I saw them, which is fine because like they get killed very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, but that was working me up into a tizzy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, I'll give you that. It's definitely valid that like Carrie Russell's character, although she's still an incredible actress, and there's like not knocking that, not
Yeah,
criticizing that, but I can see where like her character was on a little bit of a different genre than some of the other characters, and that does make it weird when
yeah.
like you have like Ranger Liz, who is I need to talk about her. You have Ranger Liz, who is exactly the kind of character that I would buy a pop Funko, like a Funko Pop of, because she's so fucking fun. And I would have that
Right.
shit like on my shelf, and every now and then people would be like, "Oh yeah, from Cocaine Bear." Like, yeah. Um, but yeah, you have a character like Ranger Liz, who is played by character actress Margot Martindale, the one and only.
She's great.
Yeah. And I mean, that character like stands out. She's very fun. She's very in the right genre for this film, like fits it to a T.
Yeah.
But compare that to, oh my God, I'm already forgetting her name. Starts with an R. I want to say Rachel.
Oh, totally, like the police officer?
No, no, no. The Carrie Russell. Sorry. It doesn't
Oh,
start with an
okay,
R at all.
okay.
Starts with a K. They're similar looking letters as someone whose name starts with a K. But yeah, I mean, like, put Ranger Liz next to Carrie Russell's character, and they are kind of in different genres. They are
Yeah.
taking the comedy in different directions. And I would say, like, just to fight you, because I have to fight you on this, I would say that's part of what I love about this is like you
Right,
need for comedy to land, for comedy to be good and long lastingly good. It needs to have a grounding. Like there needs to be characters and stories in this movie that are
for sure.
real and raw and give you moments where like you are actually on the verge of tears before you like shit your pants laughing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like to get to that point.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I can see where you're coming from is what I would
Well,
say.
there's, like, a scene in, like, Dumb and Dumber, like, at towards the beginning, I don't know if you've seen that movie, but where, like, Jim Carrey's character just, like, has, like, a very, like, sad moment, for, like, 30 seconds or so, and, like, I saw a Q&A with the director, and he said, like, of course, like, the studio is trying to get them to cut that, and he's like, "That's the only reason people care, is, like, he's so stupid, but at one point, you actually do feel bad for him," and that
Yeah.
really matters, and I agree with you. Like you definitely need that in every movie, especially in a comedy. And Carrie Russell's character, like her story definitely is like the structure of the movie. It's all kind of based around like her journey in a way. It all kind of leads up to like her journey. And I feel like, everyone's story kind of like falls in line with hers at a certain point. But yeah, it's like
Mhm.
the more I think about it, the more it's just like, you know, those two characters, like you mentioned, are in completely different movies. And it goes back to like my particular ideas of like what I would like to see in like a B comedy, or I guess like, you know, I feel like conflicted about the goal of the movie, where it's like, on one hand, it's like we're acting as juvenile and like offensive, or at least, graphic as we possibly can be. And then on the other hand, we also like want to have these respectable moments. I guess it just comes down to like personal preference. It's like, because when I describe it on paper, like it sounds like kind of nice and nuanced, but I feel like that wasn't what I was getting from the movie. Maybe
Mhm.
if I just found it all funnier, like I think I would probably like feel differently. I'd be like, oh, that actually does fit, but it didn't feel like it added anything. And that's where like, because when I watch a movie, I feel like sometimes I'm just like so focused on like trying to, figure things out about the director and what they're trying to say through every moment. And so like we all know so much about Elizabeth Banks, that I'm just like, I feel like I'm guilty of like accusing like basically the actor of writing herself into the movie. Like sometimes like actors are known for doing things like that. And I just see like the Kerry Russell character and I'm like, you added that because like this is obviously like you are kind of like expressing some version that's similar to yourself, like writers do sometimes. And it just
I would have never made that connection.
and it's like I shouldn't just, I'm not just making it because like they're both female. I just feel like she loves that character and definitely goes out of her way to specifically build that character up. And it's like, so that means something, And so she really, really values this part of the story. But it's the part of the story that I think is just like slightly suspect of,
Okay.
just like
I see you're just being blatantly sexist on the podcast.
that's what they'll
No, but
say.
I get that. I mean, there definitely is a level of there's a different way to watch a film that is directed by someone who is also known as an actor. That
Right.
I get what you're saying. There are definitely times where I watch stuff that are like who's that like really old Western guy who was in like every Western movie ever?
John Wayne.
No. His name starts with a C. I really do believe this time his name starts with a C.
Hmm.
His son is also an actor. His son was in the Wildest Dreams music video with Taylor Swift, if that helps.
Damn,
I
that
don't think that
doesn't.
helps.
Unfortunately, that
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah. See.
That's all right. Maybe it's
Anyway.
like Christopher something. I don't know. But he makes a lot of films now, and he does a lot of self insert. And I haven't seen one of his movies in a minute, but last one I saw of his just like rubbed me the wrong way in the
Yeah.
same way that you're talking about, where I was like, okay, you made this movie so that you could be in it and have this like shining ego moment, and I'm just like, everything is falling flat around it.
Yeah.
But
No, sometimes you can just like you could read someone's intentions a little too strongly, or at least you feel like you can, and you're like, you know what? I don't like the angle at which you're coming at this from, and that's like was kind of my perspective. It's like I don't know. I just felt like you could have committed a little more to like being gross or whatever. I could have used maybe some more killing, but I do
yeah.
I guess like my other complaint was like I feel like, I could have used maybe more time with like O'Shea Jackson and Alden Elric or whatever his name is, Like I feel like I like their
Yeah.
story more than the rest of them. They had like an interesting dynamic and like it was all related to like the Ray Liotta character very well. And I just felt like, sometimes I don't know. I feel like there's like some people who, when they write stories, they love to just like stack like story on top of story on top of story, and they love like weaving like storylines together. But for me, honestly, like I just feel like a couple moments from some of the characters were so interesting. I was like, I wish we just stayed here. Like we kept cutting away to like the cop, and he was funny, but I was like, like I don't know how much this is adding at this point.
So I will say, dude, like what you're saying right now is the polar opposite to what you were saying on Past Lives. On Past Lives, you were like, this was like too stripped down and there
Yeah,
wasn't enough to go off of. I mean, there was more than that, but that was like one of your main critiques was that it was like too stripped down
yeah.
and there wasn't enough developed in it. And for this one, you're like, yeah, it's just like really too developed. Like Elizabeth Banks just had like so much story, and I just wish that she didn't.
Well, different movies have, like, different problems, and I mean, I
Yeah.
think, like,
Yeah.
definitely a difference between, like, the story being developed and, like, having more scenes of characters talking, like not everything is like moving the story in a positive way, and I mean I think again it's like, if I when I say like I want to see more of like O'Shea Jackson and Alden Elric, it's like I also didn't like, the local teens so much. So it makes sense why I just like if
Yeah.
that part's not really making me laugh, then I'm like, "Fuck this shit, I wanna see what the boys are up to right now."
It's funny how different our opinions on film are. And like, I know we have movies that we both love, and
Yeah.
that's great. But holy fuck, dude, I could not be more different from you on this. Cause I was like, the, uh, I'm gonna call him Ice Cube Jr. because that's what he's called in my brain. But the
Cool.
Ice Cube Jr. side of things was still interesting, and I still like that story. But again, dude, the Ranger Liz of it all, her story, her everything, like I wanted more of that, and I did want
Yeah.
more of I think the mother and the kids because like I really like how that was all built up, especially just even wait, okay, we have to talk about this, especially just even like what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. It's been sorry, I'm looking at myself and getting all fucking self conscious.
Yeah, well, now that we're
Um,
doing, like, the video portion, the whole time I'm just like I feel like if my head is too much to one
like how am I
direction,
too
it just
tilted?
looks
Yeah.
like I'm like, "Whoa, you're crazy." So I'm, like, being, like, self-conscious in a way I never am. I'm just like
Yeah, no worries. I'll edit it to make you look like absolute shit.
Can you just edit to hold my face just stuck, like, here like
I'll
this?
I'll literally I'll like AI I'm not gonna AI anything. I fucking hate AI. But I'll like CGI Christopher Reeves on your face. That's what we'll do.
We'll get the team to CGI this up a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't you
The team
worry.
at TillKim Productions is really good with CGI. Really talented. Okay. I wanna go a super we just I don't what even was I talking about? Ice Cube,
You're you're talking
the
about
Ranger Liz.
the
Oh, the mother and the kid stuff, I think again, I thought that was really interesting. I think I
mhm.
like how it was all developed in the beginning. Oh, that's where I was going to go. Okay, you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk
What?
about so another brilliant thing that
Mm,
Elizabeth Banks, the genius behind the second greatest film, Cocaine Bear,
debatable.
um, get out of here. Another brilliant thing that she did is when the kids do coke, they eat it instead of snorting it.
Yeah.
And yes, you're thinking at home, you're thinking, well, obviously because they're kids and they don't know about drugs, and that's the whole scene, and it's funny in that way. Yes, 100%. Also, it is a way of having these child actors not do anything dangerous on set, because
Right.
even if you're just snorting lactose powder, which is like when you're on set, that's what they usually have you do. If it's like cocaine or any kind of like white drug, they try and usually like that's the number one substance. In college, we use powdered sugar, and then we were told that
Mm.
that's bad, so don't do that. Um, but anyways, even if you're snorting just lactose powder, which is like the film fake cocaine,
Right.
it comes with risks and it can be very dangerous. Like snorting anything is not a good thing to do. So
Yeah.
I love that not only was that moment of them like eating the cocaine funny because they're kids and they don't know what the fuck it is, but I was thinking, I was like, this is also a really smart way to like not have these guys do anything crazy or dangerous. Cause she could have
Yeah.
easily, I mean, her and or the props department slash the writers, there could have been someone along the line that was like, yeah, they snort cocaine.
Yeah.
But whoever made that choice, and I'm going to attribute it to Elizabeth Banks because I want to, whoever made that choice in a way that reflects the story, but is also just a genuinely good thing to do for child actors on set.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely agree because I mean, I'm already, like, suspicious enough of children acting, you know? I mean, it's,
mhm.
like, one thing watching them, but another, if I had a kid, I feel like I would feel strongly in a particular way about that. So that is a part of filmmaking, like, you do have to be creative with, like, the logistics and be like, "It's not worth hurting people," like, we should really
Yeah.
just come up with, like, a better way to do this scene to avoid that.
Yeah,
And
Stanley Kubrick. Take note. Isn't he dead?
He's dead,
Stanley
yeah.
Kubrick.
There ain't nothing we could do about what that man did.
Yeah.
Um,
Never again.
never again. Um, but I like that moment too. I definitely really appreciated that when it happened because again, it kind of is like following up on the premise. It's like, okay, kids are doing, they did the drug in a way. And I just thought that that was like very gutsy of her to do. Um, And yeah, I mean, and you know what? Like a point I feel like I wanted to make was I actually do really like this stuff with Carrie Russell. I think my
Okay.
criticism was more like I just felt like it was not
Different movie.
transitioning maybe enough as much as I wanted it to, or yeah, it kind of like the movie is pulling you in a couple different directions, but I also like again to just go back to how like I just have like such particular ideas for like what I would want like a B movie to be like. It's like in a way she and you could say this is a good thing, but I feel like there's kind of this like theme of um like love that the mother kind of brings to the movie, like I really feel like there's kind of a connecting chord between like Carrie Russell being like a mom looking for her kids and like um the Alden character, he like is very like sad, and he's kind of like defending the prisoner that they have the whole time. They're holding the local teen hostage. And his whole thing is just like, hey, like, why don't you be a little nicer? Why don't you quit being so mean to him? And there's like a couple points where, he kind of like, Ice Cube Jr. goes to like pull his gun on him, and he steps in front and he's like, no, you're not going to do this. And that also, like, now that I think about it, it foreshadows the moment towards the end when like um Ray Liotta is like going to like shoot the kid or whatever, and
Mhm.
he just like steps in front of the gun all of a sudden. But honestly, I just feel like, movies are more interesting when they're about like bad people, and I feel like my particular like just what I like out of a movie is I feel like I wish this was like, Elizabeth Banks is probably just like a nice person. I feel like I wish this was directed by like a mean spirited person.
You
And I
want directors to be pieces of shit.
for this movie, yeah, I think like it would have been great if he got like arrested for like racketeering at the end of this movie, like the director or something like that.
No,
Um,
wait, we just did we talk about this like 30 seconds ago? Hang on. If like
no
I
one
mean, I
should
know
be
you're
harmed.
joking. I
Yeah,
know you're
of course.
joking. You're like, no,
I'm
I genuinely think the director of this film should have been a convicted murderer because
I
that
think
would
he
have gotten
should
the
have.
performance.
You needed someone like, again, like, not to like shit on her too much. Like Elizabeth Banks is probably just like a nice lady, and I feel like
No, but I
you
love
need
that that's like a criticism.
it is, you need a down and dirty, like ex-convict to make this movie, because he, like, I'm sorry, but like one of the kids should have died. Like that's
I will agree. Yeah.
one of the kids should have gone, because again, it's like if everyone's like acting all kooky and getting thrown up against the wall and doing buffoonish shit, it's like, let's follow this through to the conclusion. Like, I want like as many bodies to hit the floor as, by the end of this thing.
I mean, I will agree with you on this. I think there was a world in which like this film went 85% of the way there. But there was I needed a moment where they like really fucking jumped the shark. Just one moment to like super seal the deal for me where I was like just absolutely like peeing, vomiting in the theater kind
Yeah,
of thing. I didn't get
like,
quite
or
there.
the bear, like, picks up like the assault rifle that the park ranger has and
Right.
starts
Yeah.
shooting at someone,
Like knows how to like reload it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like we needed just one moment that was like too crazy. That
Yeah,
almost like takes you like super takes you out of the film. Because I think that would have sealed the deal. I don't know if that was something that like got lost in the writing, got
yeah.
lost on the editing floor. Who knows? It could have gone a little further for
It
sure.
could have gone a little further. And it's like, this movie isn't really that bad of an offender. I feel like I was, again, like, I know it sounds like a weird movie to compare it to, but I was thinking a lot of The Room when I watched it. And like,
You're fucking weird.
well, because they're both like B movies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
they seem different, and they really are, because one is made by someone who like thinks he's making a masterpiece, and the other made by someone who maybe doesn't care as much, is like trying to be funny, And there's like, again, there's a big difference between those two, But I feel like I think of The Room, and I think of The Disaster Artist,
Oh, that was a
like,
good movie. Yeah.
yeah. But something like, honestly, like, I don't know, I thought that movie was funny, like, honestly, all those characters, like, all those actors are so funny, but, like, something I feel like James Franco is a little guilty of is, like,
Other than
other than like, actual crimes, that, rest in peace to all the victims, but
wait.
not in a literal
I
sense,
was okay, okay. We'll
I
talk
don't
about that
know.
later. Unrelated.
We're gonna have to have a whole episode on James Franco and his weird
Yeah.
directorial career.
Ooh.
Um, he made, okay, going on a tangent. When in like 2019, when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, James Franco directed like a movie about the exact same thing.
Like the
Like
same incident?
like the same like an actor, a failing actor in like 1969 in Hollywood is like trying to get by and transition into the new era. But it's just funny because I feel like in my mind, like he was like canceled or whatever you would call it in like 2016 or something, you know.
Hmm.
But he like was still just directing like absolute like dog ass movies every year. Um,
Yeah.
but not
Not
anymore, I
much, not much
guess.
good out of there, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Good things come out of bad things sometimes. Like a movie called Cocaine Bear comes out of a very terrible situation. Oh, you know what? Okay,
Mm,
so on the adaptation of it all and the actual Cocaine Bear, I mean, died, right? I said the whole reason, this movie exists is because they ended up finding this bear 4 months after the incident, OD'd on cocaine. And that's like the catalyst that created this whole story. But in the film, no bears died. The bears had a beautiful little happy ending. And
yeah,
as far as like, I think that was the right choice because I think
I
it
do.
was way too predictable.
Yeah.
Not even like knowing the story, but it was going to be way too predictable that like this bear was going to die. And I like that it was like, no, actually, fuck you. Happily ever after. Mama bear lives, Mama bear's cubs live, and they live happily ever after with their duffel bag of cocaine. It
Yeah,
was
that's all
great.
you need to be happy, honestly.
Financial stability and powdered drugs for sure.
A brick will do that for you.
Brickle.
No, that is based, any of the humans could have died, but it's nice that the bears got to live at least, you know.
Yeah.
Another, question that comes up, is this movie anti-bear?
Whoa, that's deep because I do like there's definitely an aspect that I think is very discriminatory against bears and their attitudes and behaviors. I mean, this film presents it as if like a bear is just going to immediately attack you no matter what. And if
Yeah.
it's on cocaine, it's definitely going to attack you. It makes bears seem incredibly violent. And in my experience with bears, they've never been violent to me. So,
No.
I got to say this movie is like a little anti-bear for sure.
Anti-bear propaganda.
Anti-bear. Teddy Roosevelt would be really mad at you guys.
Yeah, this is
Did you know the
anti
story about that, by the way?
what? What?
The Teddy Roosevelt of it all? So, Teddy Roosevelt's full name is Theodore Roosevelt. Whatever. I mean, that's
Good
the
guy.
boring part of the story. But it gets more interesting because the whole reason he was called Teddy is because he spared the lives of some bear cubs on. Wait. Yeah, maybe I'm messing this up. It's something along the lines of like I'm just totally making this up. It's something along the lines of like he spared the lives of some bear cubs during a hunt. And then I think that's how we got the nickname Teddy, but now I'm also confused because I'm like there's a name for a teddy bear? Or
Yeah.
was that like the teddy bear was first and then or is it just like a nickname for
Maybe
Theodore?
the teddy bear. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the teddy bear came after him or something. So how does
Yeah.
that even make sense? I don't know. I know
I
what
don't
you
know.
mean though. I know it's
There's
he
something
saved
about a bear.
something about a bear.
That's
He
the
did
sequel to this
hunt.
movie.
He did hunt. So
He
you're
did.
you're onto something there.
Yeah, I have a very limited knowledge of historical
Was
presidents.
was he the one who
So,
was like in a wheelchair? Which was
no.
there's the president who like hid that he was
No, I
in.
don't think he was, right?
There was one. It was either like, if not him, it was like the one after him. Homie was like
Shit. I just so
in.
confidently like negated you and I'm also now questioning everything I know.
Yeah, he
Everything I
like
think
like
I
no
know.
one knew he was in a wheelchair. I don't know. That's just an
No,
interesting fact.
I think it was the other Roosevelt, FDR, Franklin
Mm.
Delano.
Delano.
Delano. That guy. Great guy, terrible guy. Did some good things, did some bad things. But
Bad guys do good things sometimes.
bad guys do good things sometimes. Like if you're yeah, my train of thought just is
Yeah.
not here anymore. Cocaine Bear. So I just have a little fucking bullet point on here where I literally wrote, I for one will pre-order tickets, the all in caps, absolute second A Cocaine Bear musical is announced, and I can't wait to see what Lin-Manuel Miranda does for the soundtrack. Thoughts?
I never watched Hamilton, so I don't have many dogs in the Lin-Manuel Miranda
Manuel.
race. But man, my bad. I don't know what I even said.
No, don't say it again.
It all
It was
just
funny. We're keeping it. We're not cutting it.
he's yeah, no cuts. This is just who I am. I Good for him. I hope he makes a lot of money. Um, and I hope they cast Jeremy Allen White to play the bear.
Wait, did you just say that because there's a show called The Bear that he
You
plays the
know what?
character of the bear?
I did.
Good. It was a
There's
good choice.
nothing you can do to stop me.
Yeah. Honestly, even without that, I think Jeremy Allen White would be in my top 27 choices to play the bear in a
They
Cocaine Bear musical.
It's like it's like a low budget off Broadway production, and they run out of money, and they're like, Jamie, we got the bottom half of the soup, but the top half we couldn't afford. So you gotta just have to, and so he
Yeah.
just does his whole shtick. I've never seen him before, but I'm guessing he's like, hey, I'm the bear, give me the cocaine. It's
Yeah.
like, and they're like, no, this isn't the show The Bear. This is Cocaine Bear, He's like,
Yeah.
give me the cocaine. I gotta make this omelet or whatever goes on in that show.
That was great. I hope you never watch The Bear just so that we can get more of you having no idea what this is about.
Like, Jeremy, you're on stage. This is New York. This isn't a sound stage. This isn't, TV.
Yeah.
He's just
And
like,
actors really get confused with that.
I
Actors
need
get
the
confused all
cocaine.
the time with
Yeah,
whether or not they're on a TV show or on a stage in Broadway.
yeah.
It's confusing. I mean, it all looks the same and there's, people in lights. I would get confused. Yes, but Jeremy Allen White, I think, would be. That
I
wasn't even a question, but he would be a good choice for Cocaine Bear in Cocaine Bear the Musical, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
So,
like it would be funny if, like, how they sorry, one more point. It's funny how, like, I feel like it's a respected actor thing to go and, like, do a stage play or something or a musical. So it'd be funny if they had, like, Forrest Whitaker or like,
oh my
the most
God.
respected actors ever cast in that, they're just like, "This is
Meryl
what's on
Streep
Broadway." Meryl Streep, yeah.
as Cocaine Bear in Cocaine Bear the
Sam
Musical
Rockwell.
off Broadway. Sam Rockwell, dude, that's a guy. I loved Sam Rockwell since I think the first thing I saw him in was Seven Psychopaths, and then I got really
Nice.
obsessed. And fun fact, I mean, this is a fact that I found on the internet, so who knows how true it is, but supposedly he has a tattoo of a rooster specifically for the purpose that he can tell women that he has a big cock. And I just think that's
Wow.
funny.
That's good. I love a guy who could commit to a bit like that, who could just make a terrible decision in the name of, like, something that's kind of funny. Like, that's like, it's very relatable. I feel like I would do something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
We've
So,
all
cocaine is a substance that can cause hallucination. This is, back on topic, not on topic. So, cocaine is a substance that can cause hallucinations. Uh, but what I want to say about that is there's an argument to be made that this whole film is actually just the real coke trip of one of the people involved in the incident. And that, therefore, this film is a perfect adaptation of that coke trip, technically, on a technicality.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Because they never admit that it's a trip, so that would be the best depiction of it. That's
Yeah, the
crazy.
best dream sequence is a dream sequence that you didn't even know is a dream sequence. Like, have you heard of a movie called Inception? It was like a really low
I think
budget,
so.
like nobody saw it.
Oh yeah, I've definitely heard of Inception.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool movie.
Name 5 things that happen in that movie if you've seen it for real.
uh, uh, um, uh,
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio goes to sleep and has a scary dream.
Fine. You got lucky this time.
The
So
movie's
I have a
classic.
question for you about your feelings about this film.
Yeah.
Because as I was watching this the second time, I realized I thought, well, let me ask you the question. And then I'll argue with you because I have a feeling that we have different answers. But let me allow you the autonomy of
Please
answering
allow me the
first.
autonomy, Kim.
Yeah.
Please.
Would you agree with the statement that Cocaine Bear is a slasher film?
Yeah, I guess so, right?
That's what I think. That's what I was thinking
Yeah,
as I watched it again. I was like, this is a slasher film. And I think that's also why some of the bits of comedy are the way that they are and some of the characters. Because to me there's a lot of like again, if I could like super fucking dissect this movie, I think I could find a lot of little character tropes that would be like, yeah, and that's an homage to this and that's an homage to that.
yeah,
But also as I was watching this movie, I got some like classic kind of Friday the 13th vibes. Maybe it was just the trees, I don't know. But I felt this film was a slasher movie, and I think therefore that makes me appreciate it even more. I don't
yeah.
think it bumps it up to the number one greatest movie of all time. I still think it keeps it solidly in the number two spot, but in a
What
very solid way.
I'm very curious, if this is number 2, what would number 1 be in
Barbie.
this okay, okay. Well,
What
you know
was
what?
what did you think it was gonna be? Surfs Up from 2009 ish.
That's number 3.
Yeah, yeah. But it had its moment. It had its moment in the spotlight where we were all like, "This is the greatest film ever made." Surfs Up.
Surf's Up. Yeah, no, that movie was great.
Yeah.
I'd probably rewatch that. I'd put that as my number 2 and make this maybe my number 3, maybe my number 4. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can get on board with the anti-bear stance. I don't know if I can get on board with
Right.
the anti-drug stance. Seems a little
Seems like
behind
a little
in the
narc.
times. Yeah, a little narky, you know?
Hmm.
I'm more of like, you know, like a pro drug, pro animal kind of like pro killing humans kind of vibe. But
You know
no.
what else? I can
What?
segue off your point for a second to drop into this little episode. So you're talking about how you, David Cahill, on the record, are super pro drug and think that everybody should do illegal substances. On that
Including kids.
note, including kids, including children. Um, on that note, there's a handful of these excerpts in the beginning of this film from like 80s era PSAs, right? The
Yeah.
classic like this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs, like cooking an egg. We've all seen it. We've all seen it memed a million times. And it I think it fits really well to kind of establish, some of the tone for sure, and it's just fun cuz you're like, yeah, this is like I'm in the zone now. In that little montage of these excerpts, there's a news report, an old news report on the cocaine skydiving incident, which is actual news footage from the incident. So
Wow.
I like that they like tied it in there. And then of course, that's when they go off like right after that excerpt is where they go off to our cops, like our cop sidetrack. So it's a good, I think it's a really good segue of being like, haha, let me give you the little background of like cocaine, like don't do drugs. This is the
Yeah.
80s. Crazy shit happens. And then not only does it tie in like a very real, news, a piece of news footage from that incident, but then it like transitions you over nicely into some of our characters.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a great way to like start and like ground the movie in the era, and it's obviously like super like relevant. I there definitely was like I thought it was funny too, like an angle you could have viewed this movie as well of is like, I guess the whole point of it being set in the 80s is they're imagining this is like a movie that would be made in the 80s, like, almost on some like anti-drug propaganda shit, like, oh, a bear does drugs and kills everyone. So if you really wanted to take this from a different perspective, you probably could have gotten like even more meta. Like my like filmmaker mind was like, it'd be interesting if this movie was like from the perspective of like people making anti-drug propaganda at the time.
Like a
But
news person, like found footage
yeah,
almost then.
yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. But obviously that would have been like a very different movie. But something also like that I thought was funny was like um the Ice Cube Jr. and his partner, like I was just it's like I was looking at the way they dress, and I do those do look like outfits that people from the 80s would wear. but they also look like things that like any dude today wears too. And it's like not a criticism at all. I was just like thinking of like it's so interesting how our fashion is just like also like, historically referential now that like, something from the 80s, like that just looks like what my homie wore yesterday.
Yeah.
So for a second I was like, "Wait, this isn't, like, accurate," and I was like, "No, I think it is," but people just fashion is, like, so recyclable, and all those trends,
Yeah.
like, have all, like, come back in the past few years.
I'm wondering how we're going to feel about the Y2K movie when it comes out, because we know that largely Gen Z has really brought back Y2K fashion and kind of like amplified Y2K fashion. Um, and of course, this movie about Y2K is coming out next year, I think. I don't know if you've heard about it. Rachel
No.
Zegler. Okay, there's a Y2K movie. It's indie movie. It's Rachel Zegler's in it, and that's the only actor I know offhand. Um, there's a Y2K movie coming out. Anyways,
That's
that's the
sick.
context.
That's cool.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, are we going to feel that kind of same way where we watch this movie and almost to a degree, minus some of the technology, think like, oh, yeah, this is like a modern day film just because some of the fashion we
Yeah.
see today.
Well, honestly, like, and let's be real, like another, and I can't just like level this complaint event about Cocaine Bear because it's obviously like it's adapted on the story from that time, and I think it makes a little more sense for it to be set during that period. But like, I do also think like, there's so many period pieces being made because that is like an extra thing to add to a pitch, that is an extra like appealing thing to maybe set it apart. But also like it's just, like, so convenient for storytellers to not have to worry about cell phones. Like, that just, like,
Yeah.
ruins a lot of old, like, good classic Hollywood tropes, and people are like, "Fuck it." Like, I'd much rather just write an '80s movie, and that way, like, you don't have to deal with people, like, posting on X, and whatever the fuck that means, because it's like
Mhm.
it is kind of like, if you just look around, things are, like, a little less cinematic than, like, when no one had a phone, you know?
Yeah. And pretty much so much of that territory, sorry, so much of the territory of movies that reflect more of like the technology of today. A lot of that is just Black Mirror stuff. And then anything we see like that, we're like, oh yeah, that's like a Black Mirror type thing. It's like
Right.
that specific genre of sci-fi kind of. And also just like seeing like a graphics of a text bubble on screen is the most obnoxious thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us are ever going to go over that. There's rarely a moment where that feels right and works nicely in a film, unless like
Yeah.
one of the major exceptions is these found footage type films. These, there's a couple of films that take place exclusively from the perspective of like a laptop screen and that kind of thing, and it fits with what the story is. If you've ever seen, there's a horror movie called The Den. That was one of the
Mm.
first movies to do that. That was really cool. But again, taking away these exceptions that reflect the story, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of films that just won't be made, that can't really be made in the same way, because it's like if you slap on a fucking text bubble, like then you also have to worry about like, what color is the text bubble? Is it blue because this is an
Yeah.
Apple user? Is it green because this is an Android? Like, I don't know, just some of that stuff is, and it looks gross because then it's interrupting your view of real life. It doesn't look good.
Yeah. Well,
Just
there have been examples like some art house directors have, tried, they've come up with like some sort of dialogue they're creating by using that, but it's always like it pulls you out and it's like very boring and dry to sit and watch someone text. Like that's not why you like go see a movie. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, 100%. So, we're going to start to wrap this up with our last couple of segments of the episode because I think I've slowly convinced you that this is the second greatest film of all time. I can tell that you love this film a lot more than you did when we started this episode, and clearly that was the whole point of this. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm glad you love it. Yay. Let's go back and rewatch Past Lives.
You know what? Like I did yeah, great idea. I did like it more definitely the second time I watched it. Like and I'm not trying to give
Okay.
it too much credit, but
Yeah,
I doubt, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But I
yeah, yeah.
definitely, like usually if I don't like it, I'm gonna like it less having to watch it a second time. But I was like, no,
We'll have to
you know.
find a film. We're going to have to find a film next time to talk about that you love that I hate. which is
Yeah,
going to be hard because there's only like 4 films that I would put in that category. And I'm not going to list them off right now because I'm too scared to have that information on the internet for all to see. But we'll talk about it in real life and we'll find something.
I'm sure we will. There's definitely something. There's definitely something that I'm like the only person who likes it, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I'm
totally.
confident of that.
So, David, let me ask you, are you ready for a movie theater butter pop quiz?
I am.
Incredible. You have 2 questions today.
Let's do it.
Okay. Question number 1. The real cocaine bear incident occurred in December of 1985. Who was president of the United States in 1985?
Ronald Reagan.
You got that so fast. And it, like, you know what's funny? Before I slapped this question down before we even talked about presidents. That wasn't planned. But
Yeah.
it was like, oh, this is great. And in my brain, I was like, he's not going to get this. And then, like, I'm going to have the knowledge. I wouldn't have gotten this. If you asked me this today before I had looked it up, I don't know. I probably would have said
Yeah.
FDR. Like, I have no concept of the
No,
timeline of
I know what
things.
you mean. Ronald Reagan is like, I actually just read this book about him a few months ago, and he's so interesting, like in relation to cinema. Obviously, he was an actor, and basically, like, he's the epitome of like a president who like knew nothing, did fucking jack shit, but like he would just come out and say something, and everyone would
Mhm.
be like, sick, cool, like he literally
Yeah.
was like he embodied like a lot of cinematic ideas, like when he was
Not
president, like
necessarily in the best way.
no, 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 not in the best way at all.
Yeah.
Like, cinema isn't necessarily good, but like he would definitely
Mhm.
like, he was like big on like attaching himself to movies, because movies were such a part of the zeitgeist at the time. Everyone was watching Ghostbusters, and that was like, I guess, like low key, he attached his like anti-crime policy nonsense to like that sort of vibe. He's very
Yeah.
much like the movie president through and through. So I've been thinking about that a lot. So it caught you by
Okay.
surprise there, but
That did. Yeah. And honestly, impressed. Good job. Good job.
hell yeah.
Well done. Question number 2. 1 year prior to the events of Cocaine Bear in 1984 was a Summer Olympic year. In what city and country were the 1984 Summer Olympics held?
They were, I know, because it was like a big thing, but I'm having trouble. Was it like France? Like, was it Paris? Where was it?
Give me one more guess. Give me one more guess. I think the
Was
more that I just like body language hint to you, the more that I think you're going to get it.
Ooh, was it in America?
Yes,
Um,
it was. In what beautiful city?
Missouri.
Yes. The Summer Olympics of 1984. No, no, no. Do you want to know? Do you want the answer?
Yes.
The Summer
Sorry.
Olympics of 1984 were held in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, I thought that was
And
too obvious.
no, there's perfectly obvious. And if you're listening to or watching this podcast, fun little announcement for you. Starting in June of this year, TillKim Productions, our parent company, is starting an all-new podcast following international athletics and related news leading up to the 2024 Summer Olympic Games that will be held once again in sunny Los Angeles, where I live. We're going to sprinkle in a little bit of history about the games. We're going to keep up with big names in sports all around the world. We're going to talk about how our beautiful city is preparing for the games and check the pulse on how Angelinos are feeling about the big event, all leading up to the 2024 Olympic Games. Follow us on social media at Road to LA 28. Link in the description. Now, after all that, back to the podcast. David, on the topic of Cocaine Bear, the second greatest movie of all time, how do you think this film is best watched?
This movie, damn, that's a tough question. So many ways to watch it. I think I was gonna say under the influence of cocaine. Um Probably that might be the best. Because then you're just like really hyped up and you're focused, and like I feel like, not speaking from experience, but I feel like if you were like on coke, like it wouldn't really matter what you were watching. You would just be like really goals oriented and just like, oh, well, he's got to get the coke. He's got to get the coke. He's got to run from the bear. Like that might be a good experience.
Okay, okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough. So you're just
So
once again supporting the use of illegal substances
I thought that's what
on
this
the
movie was about.
podcast,
I'm
live,
sorry.
online for everyone to see.
With the LAPD watching? What?
Yeah. Yeah, because the LAPD is notorious for listening to the Movie Theater Butter
That's where
podcast.
you find the real criminals.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I somewhat agree with you. I mean, the only thing that I wrote for how I think this film is best watched is high
Yeah.
and every day.
I
So,
every day. Yeah, high and for the 20th time in a row.
yeah. Yeah, you really
Yeah.
need to see this. This is one of those movies that I think, like, to really get the message to sink in, kind of like Inception, it takes you a couple of watches. I think 20 watches. Like, David, I think that's going a little bit overboard. I think, like, you could cap out at 18 to, like, really get the messaging in.
I feel like
But, yeah.
if I was like if there's like a gun to my head, like if I was being held hostage, like I would really enjoy like sitting and watching this movie for 95 minutes.
Yeah.
It would just give me like a nice break, from the terrors of my daily life. Um
I'm gonna
that
make
that
you a
would
supercut of a movie that I'm gonna mix the Cocaine Bear with Past Lives with like a dabble of Fast and Furious for no reason, and
fuck
also
yeah.
The Room. And I'm just gonna slap it all into one movie and show it to you while you're high, and we'll see if you even notice. Besides the fact that I just told you that that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
I was already ready for it. I'm already like
Good.
my cinema guardrails are up. But again, like all of this is to contextualize my opinion. Like I think The Room is like 10 out of 10 classic. Like can't
It's good.
wouldn't change a single thing about it.
It's good. It's a really good movie.
And I mean that earnestly.
Okay. Well, good. I mean, it's good to know that there's like at least one movie out there that you like, even if it's
Oh
not any of
yeah.
the movies we've talked about so far,
Yeah, you know
which is
what? That
good.
was
It's
that
good.
was by choice. Yeah. I don't think the people they don't need to hear all my nice opinions, Like I want people to know like like this is something that like I can't talk to anyone about and real, I can't rave about how much I hated Cocaine Bear in
Yeah.
my at work, I'll be fired, sued even
Yeah.
for misconduct.
People have
Um
been.
so I get I got to come to the podcast world.
Yeah.
It's like
It's a
everyone
safe
wants to
space.
yeah, like we all loved, Oppenheimer or whatever, and everyone agrees with me. Well, so you know what? There's
This is the
one.
movie, but I
That's the
already
one.
recorded an episode about it. Dang it. I'll have to find
Yeah,
another movie that I
there's
hate.
probably there's probably more to say, but yeah, there's a lot of movies. We'll find one.
We'll find one. Ooh, I will reveal to you here
Mm.
publicly on the podcast. I don't like the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Oh yeah, no, me either. I and what I
Okay, okay.
yeah, I'm not like. I mean, I like it more than some of the Marvel movies for sure. Like, it's not my least favorite, but it's just all right.
Maybe that's what we need. Maybe next time, David, what we'll do is we'll find a movie we both dislike. So we
Yeah,
can
that's
just
fun.
shit on it for the whole, like, an hour and a half of just why this movie sucks.
Yeah, I want to like that's good. Like it's good to find like common ground. I definitely like if it's like the more popular it is, the better. Like I'd love to
Mhm.
shit on something that like everyone loves. Like not
Yeah, yeah,
not to like be mean spirited, but just so like I feel like that's what needs to be shit on the most, if it deserves it. It's like if everyone loves Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and we think that's the worst movie made since, the dawn of cinema, that's probably worth our time combing through that one. Because also sometimes or a lot of times you don't like a movie, but if you really pay attention, there's a lot more you could talk shit about. But like at
yeah,
first you just kind of you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna zone out. I know I don't like this movie.
yeah. Totally fair. Totally. Well, thank you for being on another episode of the podcast. And, I
Thank you for
guess we'll
having
see you
me.
next time for Guardians of the This Movie Sucks Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy 1 through 3. We're watching all of them and the
All of
Christmas
them.
special. The Christmas special I watched with my parents. Last thing I'll say that I like blew a blood vessel watching that. They, like, have,
Damn.
like, Kevin Bacon, like, play himself, which
Yeah.
I guess it's again, it just depends on the kind of person you are. That I didn't like that one bit.
Damn. Well, I am curious to hear all about it, and we will talk more about Kevin Bacon and that on the next. I'm so good at like getting us out of the podcast. Thank you for coming. Anybody listening, anybody watching, thank you for watching. We are now a partial video podcast. Still kind of figuring this all out. I think we're just gonna drop a couple episodes here and there as we record the video of them, and then eventually we'll have a moment where we are official video podcast moving forward. Until then, thank you. Don't do drugs.
Thank you. I can't say that other thing, but thank you.